Hello and welcome to the latest episode of The Special Sauce. We're calling this one a mini sauce just because it will be a bit shorter than usual, but we just want to take the time to talk about something we get asked about a lot, and that is commission structures. So if you're an agency, there's no doubt you're probably looking to find the balance between rewarding the right behaviors and results while also maintaining some level of profitability. But if you're a recruiter, you're also looking to maximize your earnings. So we're going to dig into a couple of things for this one today. But Chrissy, first and foremost, commission plans, is it something you get asked about a lot?
More and more. You get asked by everyone, what's obviously, what's the commission structure, but in terms of importance, it's certainly something that's coming probably to the top right now, I'd say for most. And, the reasons for that is, firstly, as we all know, salaries, they're not base salaries, that is. They're not moving, too fast, right? And they're not going up as probably as fast as they were a couple of years ago. So that pressure to earn is going to come from commissions. And that's why it's so important for all recruiters to know what's their earning potential.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I think the importance of other benefits and, flexibility and the nice to have is what I'd call, they've really dropped down.
Yep.
And commissions the number one thing that candidates are asking for, quite simply.
Yeah, I think it's something we get asked by a lot of agencies as well.
Yeah.
What's this company doing? What's that company doing? And as I kind of touched on in the intro there, I think there is a lot more pressure from a cost perspective on agencies. So they want to make sure that they've got that balance right. As I said, you want to make sure you're rewarding your staff, but you also want to make sure you're not just letting money walk out the door that perhaps shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So Chris, talk to me. What's probably, what are the most common commission structures you see out there?
Yeah, the most common one, I'd say it's a 70-30 split between quarterly and monthly, payments, right?
Yep.
So 70% being the quarterly. The way it typically works on average, and again, everyone's going to be a bit different, but on average, I'd say it's a multiply system, right? So 2.5 to 3 times your base. Some companies are going to do base only, some are going to do base and super, divided by 4, and that's your quarterly threshold, right?
So just for the listeners out there, let's say you're on a 100K package, times it by, let's say 3, which is the average, which gives you 300K target for the year. You divide that by 4 for the quarters of the year, which then means you've got a $75,000 target per quarter, and anything you bring in over 75K, you get a percentage of.
That's it.
And what, for those out there listening who may not be familiar with this, which is the most probably common one we see, what percentage of billings would they typically get over that 75 a quarter?
Yeah, again, it's going to vary. And each company is going to have, various different kickers. On average, I'd say on the lower end, it's at 30% they kick in. So, it could be anything from, say, using that $100,000 package as an example, from $75,000 to, maybe $100,000, it's 30%. From, 100 to, 140, it's 40%. And, maybe 150 and above, it's 50%, right? So every company is going to have slightly different kickers or, the value when it kicks in. But that's a sort of rule of thumb that we're sort of seeing in terms of the percentages.
Yeah, so that's the most common one. What are some of the other things that that we see out there? Because I guess commission structures are as varied as recruitment agencies themselves, right? There's so many out there.
Yeah.
What are some of the other ones?
Oh, look, we see obviously monthly, and typically with the monthly ones, they might have a fixed threshold, as opposed to, could be, a $10,000 threshold, right? Commission kicks in after $10,000, but much lower percentages. So it could be, from 10,000 to 20,000, you get, 10%. From 20 to 30, you get 15, et cetera, et cetera. And that's paid monthly. We've seen, I think there's still a few agencies out there that pay commission on every dollar, but again, really marginal rates.
Yeah. So very low percentages.
Yeah.
Which I think, look, you've just got to, there's pros and cons to all of them. Obviously, that first one we spoke about, you kind of need to be doing, 75K before you see anything, which, some people might look at, say, okay, well, this other company, I've got a 10K threshold and I get a percentage of anything above that. And that's awesome. But what I would suggest for anyone is run your sums and run your numbers, because yes, in that model you might get paid, earlier or sooner, or on lower billings, but you start to lose out significantly once you start doing really good billings. That's where the other one kicks in and becomes a lot better. Yeah.
One thing as well, super on
Yep.
comms. You know?
Yes.
What are you seeing in that?
Yeah, look, I've seen different things. I think once again you could probably split this. Well, actually, I think most agencies, when they pay commission, that's inclusive of super. They don't pay super in addition to that. And a lot of people, I don't think, know that or read that in their contract. So whereas you might think you're getting 5K commission plus super on top, it's really your super is going to be included in that. So it always happens for a lot of people when they get their first commission check. They think they're 10%, 10 or 12% short, but that's normally where it is.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think, or one of the other things I think is worth talking about this is clawback or deficit models. So for some who might not be familiar, that's where let's say you do have a threshold of, 20K per month. If you miss that 20K, let's say you bill 15, that 5K differential or difference goes into the next month, and you've got to make up for that. And I think this is something that a lot of agencies, once again, have in their contracts, but don't necessarily enforce. But I have seen and heard of agencies probably being a bit more strict on that of late.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, we've definitely heard more agencies being, a lot more strict on just the financial rewarding around that as well, right?
Yeah, and I think agencies, once again, because there's so much cost pressure on agencies, I think for the most part, what I've seen is, they're willing to cut a bit of slack, but all of a sudden it gets to 3, 4, 5 months with not hitting threshold, and then all of a sudden you have a massive month. They're probably not too keen to be paying out massive commissions when you haven't performed for the 2 quarters prior.
That's right, and that's why most agencies probably have that quarterly threshold, right? Because it promotes consistency, right? Rather than having, say, donut. Oh, I build 50 grand, and now I'm going to get $10,000 commission. It's quarterly.
Yeah.
You're still a massive, as bad as this sounds, you've still cost that business a lot of money.
Yeah.
The business hasn't made any profit off you at the end of the day, which is, at the end of the day, that's what our jobs are as recruiters.
I think the other thing to think about as well, or keep in mind, is when you actually get paid your commission. And I've seen a few agencies fiddle around with this of late as well. So, there's some agencies that will pay the commission pretty much the next month, whereas we're starting to see a lot more agencies now not pay that commission until they receive the money, which as a recruiter or as a staff member, you might feel like a little hard done by on that. But I think, now being a business owner myself, I can definitely see how for an agency, that's something that is really important, right? Like if you imagine, a business has a massive November, pays out huge amount of commission in December. In December, maybe it's a quiet month. That business has to pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars in commission for invoices that they probably haven't even been paid for themselves. So that's something to think about as well when it comes to commission structures.
Absolutely. Obviously, massive topic, right? Speak about it with clients all the time. What do you think are some of the best comm structures out there?
I think I've seen lots of good ones, but I think, if I'm an agency, let's say I'm early stages and I'm starting to think about hiring people and I want to build a commission structure, I think what you've got to do in the early days is you've got to put a structure in that rewards the behaviors that you want for that particular role. So if you're a new business, or you want to have a focus on generating new clients and new business, we'll put something in, whether it's bonuses, commissions, or incentives, that rewards recruiters for bringing in new logos or new work to the business. All right. Conversely, if you want a commission or a bonus structure for a delivery person, and your main focus here is on, actual fill rate or delivery when it comes to like feedback from clients, whatever, that's what you've got to reward. I think you've got to reward the behaviors that you want in your business.
The one piece of advice I'd have, just following the stuff you've said, Lee, is for agencies, once you've set your structure, back it. Don't fuck with it, because we hear a lot, I guess we get a lot of calls from candidates, right, saying, hey, I've had my structure changed twice this year or twice in the last 12 months, and now they're, not rewarding this or not rewarding that, whatever it may be. That's going to piss off your staff, right? Especially the ones that have been used to, the ones that are going to have to take a hit because of the new commission structure. So whether that, how agencies do that, I know some sort of, keep a legacy commission structure for some of their existing staff, and anyone coming in new goes on the new one. That's, different challenge altogether for agencies, but they've got to, my advice is, just don't mess with it when you don't need to.
Yeah, mate. Like, I think this area, it is a very important part of, I guess, attracting and retaining talent. So for any listeners out there, whether you're a recruiter thinking or wanting to know how your commission structure stacks up to someone else, or you're an agency owner or manager, perhaps looking at what you do with yours, feel free, drop us a line, reach out. We're there for you. But that is the end of this mini source. Thanks for listening. See you soon. That's a wrap for this episode of The Special Sauce. We hope that you're walking away with some insights that you can actually use every day on your desk. If you enjoyed the conversation, follow, like, subscribe, or leave a review so we can reach more recruiters just like you. For more about Sorciety, check out our website on society.com or follow us on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and see you next time on The Special Sauce.